Yo, what's poppin'? So first of all, this is the intro of the song altogether. So the first thing you're going to notice is that I use discrete pings, and then for the rest of the song they just play as chords. Then there's an impact that gives the song a bit of a cinematic vibe. Then there's a simple bass line, some random discrete sounds, here's some more discrete samples, except this time I use some production wizardry. This is before. And this is after. Here's a percussion loop. Here's another percussion loop. This was supposed to be a pad, but actually I got lazy and I just put reverb on the whole drop and then copy pasted it. This is a riser to build up tension before the drop comes. Also, there's a flute playing in the background. I don't know what kind of flute it is, but still, it's flute. Now we get to the good part, which is the drop. This is where most of the action is happening. Drums. There's a basic kick and snare, but also, more interestingly, instead of using some generic trap drums, I decided to get percussion loops that sounded kind of exotic. We also have some juicy 808 bass. So the 808 bass that I've used in the drop is actually pretty simple. It's just a sine wave with a filter and also a distortion to give it a bit of texture. There's also a pitch envelope, which just gives it a bit of thump in the beginning, like this. Now, here's a very important tip with bass. If you're just starting out in FL Studio, you'll hear a word thrown around a lot, and it's called sidechain. In essence, you just want your kick and snare to kind of force out the bass, or really any other instrument, so that you can hear the drums clearly without having to make them too loud. This is one of the biggest steps in learning music production, and if you can master this as a beginner, you're gonna achieve a significantly cleaner mix. There's a myriad of ways you can make sidechain, but the one I use in this song is using Fruity Limiter, and this is how it looks like. The chords kind of sound cheap, and this is the serum patch for it. This is how it sounds on its own. Watch how the chords sound without reverb. Now when you do add reverb, it sounds significantly better. So if you look down a little bit, there's also automations throughout the whole song. Over here in the build-up, it's just cut off, making the drums sound more intense as the drop approaches. And then in the drop, there's some reverb automations. And basically this just makes everything stop out of nowhere, as you can hear. And that gives it a really nice effect. It kind of builds up tension throughout the drop. It's also a very modern sounding effect, and I love using it. It just sounds great. However, the one thing you should watch out when using automations, if you place multiple of the same automation and then you edit it, it's actually going to edit all the other ones. As you can see, it just like changes in every single one. If you want to edit one of them without changing the others, you go here in the top left of one of those clips, make unique. Make unique is very useful. Now, whenever you change this one, it won't change the others, even though the others are still on the same unique clip. And as a nice final touch, here are some last effects that I've added. Now once the drop ends, there's a section that we call a break, and in this section, it's mostly the same elements as before but with a few changes. And then we get to my favorite part of the song. Flute. But before we get to the flute, here's some other stuff that I put in this section. So the way the flute was made is using a plugin called Contact. It has some nice factory presets, which, I mean, there are better libraries out there, but I still like using the factory. So I used the shakuhachi, which sounds like this. Alright, here's how the flute sounds. Now, aside from the flute, there's a bunch of other Asian style instruments that I used in this section, and here's some of them. Also an overview of the entire section. This instrument fit absolutely perfectly in this section, and it's called oud. It's a really nice sounding instrument, and this is how it sounds. If you have any extra questions, I'm more than happy to answer them in the comments, and you can join my Discord server for feedback. Also, if you'd just like to have a chat. It's very inspiring to share the process and see people progress in their learning. I might make a tutorial on the visuals later on if there's enough requests for it. So yeah, hit the subscribe, hit the bell, let's get the spread. Until next time, guys.